My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. We don't have and we don't need a network. We've got us, and we've got our social media, as long as the liberals keep allowing us to use it, so we'll just keep using it. So, while House Wolf there waits for his pizza to arrive, we'll get the show started, and we're going to talk about tonight about the new the press secretary, communications, head of communications for the White House, Anthony Scaramucci. I think that's how you say his last name. And we're also going to talk about John Huntsman as well. Both of these individuals are people that came out against Trump pretty hard at the beginning of the campaign last year, and now they're both working for Trump in the White House, along with many others who have criticized President Trump very heavily. So let's go ahead and we'll get started with that and see what you got to say. All right, so I guess everybody was pretty shooken up today because Sean Spicer's out, and Anthony I always forget how to say his last name, Scaramucci. I'm not Italian, so I'm going to butcher it. Let me know if I'm butchering it. And I got to tell you, I've met this guy a couple times on the set. I was on a show with him once, and then that was on Fox Business, and then I met him again in the green room for Bill O'Reilly's show. I don't know him personally, but having been in and around media for a year, I have to say that his characteristics fall closely in line with other narcissists that I've known in media that are just there to make a name for themselves. They are in deep, way deeper than they actually know, but their egos won't let them stop. And so they get themselves into these positions. I've seen it over and over again. And one thing I want everybody to guard against, I see Annie saying she likes Anthony. We got to remember, folks, that you don't know these people. All right, you say you like them, but you should hold a huge dose of skepticism next to you when these people come in. You got to ask yourself, who are they? Why are they there? You guys are hearing me, right? I have sound. Somebody just said muted, so I want to make sure. And I tell you what, this says it better than anything else. I'm reading what you guys are saying here. Just make sure I have sound. Let's just take a look at Anthony Scaramucci and how he was with and how he felt about President Trump last year during the election process. Hold on one second. Let me plug this in. So this is on Fox Business. And they were playing this today. Now, you're not really going to be able to see much because I don't have a big monitor, but you'll be able to hear it.
A hack politician.
You call Donald Trump a hack?
He's a hack politician. He's probably going to make Elizabeth Warren his vice presidential nominee with comments like that.
You think he's a
It's anti-American. It's very, very divisive.
You think Donald's a plant?
And I'll tell you who he's going to be president of. You can tell Donald I said this. The Queens County Bullies Association. You got to cut it out now and stop all this crazy rhetoric spinning everybody's head. The politicians don't want to go at Trump because he's got a big mouth and he's afraid he's going to light him up on Fox News and all these other places. But I'm not a politician. Bring it.
So why is he resonating?
You're an inherited money dude from Queens County. Bring it, Donald.
Now, Now, let's compare and contrast that with a recent interview he did with MSNBC. And you're going to see what I'm talking about here, hopefully.
I want to establish the president is obviously watching, Anthony, or we hope that he's watching. Mm-hmm. You stand to benefit having a positive you've sold your company. In order for you to get deferred tax treatment, you need to get that job within the administration. Is that correct?
Yeah, but that's correct. But why is that a big issue, though? I don't understand. That's
because you certainly want to please the president, because that would be a lot of money for you.
Okay, so hold on a second. This isn't about money for me. I mean, people don't back the president based on money. Okay, this is about philosophy and loyalty, and it's about believing in the mission that the president has. You guys probably don't believe in the mission here at MSNBC, but there are lower and middle class people that are struggling in the United States. I saw that firsthand on the campaign. The president has an economic agenda, a tax plan, a healthcare reform plan that will help those people. But instead of focusing on that, what we focus on is Scandals Incorporated and all this.
Okay, so I think that's enough there for everybody to see that. See, these are the games that these people play in media, and there's some of the people watching this show are part of media, and they see this stuff firsthand. And to me, it's kind of sickening when you have somebody who, and maybe you didn't know this, but he was a huge supporter and a campaign fundraiser for Scott Walker. And then when Scott Walker was out, he moved over to Jeb Bush and was on that bandwagon for Jeb Bush for a long period of time. So, see, these types of things, they don't sit well with me, especially when I see all of a sudden now he jumped over to the Trump bandwagon and he's just Mr. I'm all in for Trump, and I love Trump, and Trump's president, his policy here and policy there, and I'm all for it, and yada yada yada. I don't buy that. And today when he was in his press conference, which I thought was a mess. I know that some people, they were trying to make it sound like it was better than it was, but he's not Donald Trump. He's another Wall Street businessman. But yeah, he seemed to, Maureen's saying he seemed too slick. He seemed slick to me, and I don't buy into the whole I've never had people work for me. We always work as a team. I don't buy that. And it was, I don't know. We have the media telling us that he and Reince Priebus don't get along, but the way he described it, there's like a love affair between he and Reince Priebus. And I'm not comfortable with that either, because Reince Priebus, in my mind, should have been gone a long time ago, and he should have initially been there. I agreed with initially bringing him in, just if anything, just for the optics, but he should have been gone immediately. And I also didn't like the way Anthony Scaramucci, or Moosey, or however you say his name, the way he was, he can't hide when he doesn't like somebody, and he obviously doesn't like, from Breitbart News, why am I forgetting his name? Help me out, brain room. I just had a brain lapse. From Breitbart, that's in the White House, that's interviewed me, and I've interviewed him, but for some reason his name is escaping me. Bannon, there you go. Yeah, Steve Bannon. I don't like. I didn't like the way he was describing his feelings about Bannon, because it was a lie, and it was odd the way he was. I don't know. Anyway, the whole point of me even going on this rant, somebody wrote on Twitter that BFD, like big freaking deal, he is communications guy. Well, it is a big deal. I'll tell you why it's a big deal, because, well, let's just read his tweets from a while back that I have here on Twitter. And let me pull these up here. It is a big deal, because when you have people in the White House now that say, we, the USA, has 5% of the world's population, but 50% of the world's guns. Enough is enough. It's just common sense. We apply more controls. Now, that doesn't need to be in the White House. We need constitutionalists in the White House. And anybody that has this president's ear is going to be able to influence his decisions. It's known he can go and say, I'm going to do one thing this way, and then somebody comes up and whispers in his ear, I think you should do it this way, and he'll completely change the way he thinks. That's the way this president rolls. So if that's the way he rolls, I don't need this nonsense in the White House. I need a constitutionalist. I don't need some guy who's from the New York metropolitan area, who's big money from Wall Street, and is an ego that's 10 feet taller than he is, and is a liberal in the White House. The other thing he says, you can take steps to combat climate change without crippling the economy. The fact many people still believe climate change is a hoax is disheartening. So that is a big deal when you combine him with Ivanka Trump, who feels the same way, with Jared, who feels the same way, and McMaster, who is head of national the NSA. I'm telling you, the White House is filled with posers and media whores and people who have zero knowledge and what they're going to be talking about. And 6 months in, with this investigation going on, what I covered the other night with Mueller being able to go after Trump, we're in a very dicey position here. And I say we because, as I've explained before this week, President Trump is a temporary dam that has stopped the flow somewhat of globalists and helped put back some of the executive orders that President Obama put into place. But it's a temporary fix. And while that fix is in, we have a limited amount of time to organize and get together and do what needs to be done, which I don't see happening in the American people. And I see more people saying that they, they just have given 100% of their backing to President Trump as though he's going to go up there and just fix everything in the country. The president has a very limited amount of things that he can do to fix things. And that bothers me. It bothers me because people are doing the same thing that they always do. They just simply try to elect somebody to go fix everything, and the American citizenry, they don't take ownership of the problems that exist and the people that are getting elected. I've seen all these people coming out talking about John McCain and how he deserves a miracle from God to fix his brain tumor and all this stuff. I mean, one of the doctors on Fox News said, out of anybody in this world, John McCain surely deserves a miracle from God. Well, I could think of, if you go up to the Cancer Research Center and you see some 5-year-olds who have brain cancer, I would think that they're pretty deserving of a miracle. So, I just think that this country needs to start taking, the citizenry needs to start taking their voting process a lot more seriously. They need to put the stomp on the Republican Party and oust and overthrow that party, or we just need to get rid of these parties altogether somehow, some way. We need to figure this out, how to do it. So that's enough about Scaramucci. I guess we'll wait and see what happens with that. Now, let me just turn this a little bit over to about John Huntsman. John Huntsman, who also came out and had some not so nice things to say about President Trump during the election process. Let me just pull up his Wikipedia page here. Not that Wikipedia knows everything, but so I've heard a lot about John Huntsman. His daughter, Abby, is at Fox News, and I know that John Huntsman has a lot to do with the people who used to work and run Fox News. And so when I saw that both of these individuals had criticized President Trump pretty harshly before, and now he's using them, also there's several other politicians, I started looking at all their different Wikipedia pages. Now, here's one thing, and listen, you all know I keep railing on the fact of that we need to get rid of, as President Trump says, it drain the swamp. I call it a cesspool because a swamp is actually a thriving ecosystem. A cesspool is like you would see in a sewer, and that's what Washington, D.C. is. And when we look at John Huntsman, you're looking at somebody who is somebody that constantly swirls the bowl but never gets flushed down the toilet. He is a Washington, D.C. insider. His father worked in the White House for Nixon, I believe. And he has worked for every White House since Ronald Reagan. So now he's going to be our ambassador to Russia, I believe is what he's going to be. And right now he's the governor of Utah. And when I started looking at his background, he fits every characteristic of an establishment member in Washington, D.C. that you could possibly get. Now, I've been talking about this all week, folks. And I said today maybe we'll do a little review real quick before we do our Friday night toast. So don't forget to have your Friday night toast with you. Also, make sure you share the show. Make sure that you share it on Facebook, retweet it on Twitter. And if you all haven't been following me on YouTube, go over there and follow me on YouTube. I don't think the chat's working tonight for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that. So sorry about the chat on YouTube. The stream is working, but the chat is not. At least it's not on mine. So let's do a quick review. Let's go to the A block. We'll do a quick review of this week, and then we will do the toast and get out of here early. All right. All week, I think this is the one thing that I really want you all to take away from this, okay? We talked about various things. You guys watched my speech that I did with the 912 Project on July 10th. All week we've been talking about, as we normally do on this show, it seems to always come back to this. For one, the communism, the Red-Green Alliance with Islam. We've talked about how the Trump administration is in a bad place right now with the fact that, and let me pull this little thing up that I had written down here before about, I need a chalkboard back here. There it is. So this whole thing with Mueller being a special prosecutor, and the whole relationship between Comey, Mueller, Rosenstein, who is the acting attorney general, the fact that Sessions recused himself right off the bat, can't figure out why he did that, and how Rosenstein, Comey, Mueller, and Trump, or not Trump, but Mueller, Comey, and Rosenstein all have been together in the DOJ for a long time, and even now the FBI director that President Trump has nominated, Christopher Wray, is also in their little circle. So you got Rosenstein, who's the longest-standing attorney in the DOJ in the nation's history. You got Comey, who was a DOJ attorney with Mueller and with Christopher Wray. Mueller became the FBI director. When he left, he pulled and recommended Comey. Comey became the FBI director. Mueller, by the way, practically destroyed the FBI. And then Comey comes in and is a political pawn for the Clintons, doing whatever they want, because it was election time. They wanted to get her elected. Comey then goes and leaks information to a professor at Columbia University to force the president somehow, I don't know how that forced him, but forced him to appoint a special prosecutor, which I don't know who suggested it be Mueller, but he put Mueller up there. Mueller's going to turn around and let Comey completely off. And meanwhile, Rosenstein, who's their good buddy, goes to Mueller and says, okay, here's your guidelines of your authority. You can pretty much look at anything that Trump has, anything. His businesses, his family life, anything his kids do, anything. You can look at anything. It literally used the word anything. I've never heard of that broad of a authority for an investigation. I've never heard of it. Normally, in order to go past, like, you're given a strict authority, and then when you find out evidence about something, then you can go beyond that authority because you apply for a subpoena, or you go and review it with the DOJ, and you're given a broader authority. But you're not just given the opportunity to go get anything. So Trump is in a bad place right now. I think probably worse than a lot of people think, because they don't trust Mueller, Comey, Rosenstein, or and the guy that if Christopher Wray comes in right now you're going to have him supporting all this stuff as well. The whole thing is crazy. But what does this all come down to? I mean, let's just look at the names that we've looked at so far. Sessions, career politician. Rosenstein, listen, the attorneys in the DOJ are politicians. Rosenstein is a career politician, a career attorney in the most liberal agency in the United States. The most liberal. It's communist. Those people are freakishly crazy. I told you the story about one of the people that I know that works in the DOJ was talking to an attorney there, a high attorney, that said he truly believed that Trump was a madman and that Sessions was a Manchurian candidate. Comey, lifelong politician and creepy attorney. Mueller, lifelong politician, creepy attorney. Now you got Anthony Scaramucci, ass kisser and obviously media whore, and John Huntsman, lifelong politician. I mean, is it just me? Am I just rambling, or is you guys let me know? Give me some feedback here, because it's just gotten to a point now where we're just recycling the same useful people. I'm just reading your stuff here. All right. Let me see what you're saying over here on Facebook. Everybody's just saying hello to everybody on Facebook. Craig says, y'all pray for the truck driver next to me. His truck caught on fire, and he was taken to the hospital with major burns. Medic said he might not make it. Wow. All right. Pray for that guy. You do have to download Periscope in order to go on and to watch it. I don't know if you have to download Periscope. All right, I'm still looking. Scott Stevens. Kathleen, what are you saying here? Maybe I'm misunderstanding the gist of the shouting. All right. All right. I think I don't know what else that's the biggest thing that's came out of this week, out of all these different shows that I've done, is every night I'm seeing stuff in the media that's a lie. I'm seeing, as always, have you noticed that the Russian thing is kind of slowly taking a back crawl? They're still trying to work it somehow. And these people just continuously come up. It's over and over again, the same people. And I really want you all to start watching. When you watch the TV and you listen to these people, start studying. If you're going to watch TV, otherwise just turn it off. But if you're going to watch it, don't just take these people's words for it. Don't just say you like them. You got to find out who they are, and you got to look at what they've said before and what they're saying now, because a lot of the times it's just nonsense. Let me see what else you guys are going to say. And then we're going to do our Friday Night Toast. And I'm going to call it a night early tonight. Unless you guys have something else you want to talk about. Maureen, what are you saying? The Minnesota press are out of control. What do you mean? Thank you, Farron. I don't guess I saw that. Maxine Waters running for president. I mean, I don't even think that's even worth mentioning. That's about like Al Sharpton running for president. Police shooting in Minnesota. Oh, okay, I got you. Jack, I haven't watched that video yet. I'll get to it. So the mayor was speaking in Minnesota and the protesters took over. I'll have to look into that. Huh. I don't know what happened with that shoot. The way it was explained to me, this is the only analysis I can do on that shooting in Minneapolis where the woman was killed that called the police, is that it sounds to me, based on what they were saying, that he was in the passenger side. And when they pulled up, she was coming from this direction over here, and some fireworks went off. And when he looked over, it might have looked like she had a gun, and he shot from the car through in front of his partner and shot her and killed her. Now, if he went and pointed his gun and it was an accidental discharge, then they'll probably charge him for manslaughter. But if he says and articulates that I heard a loud bang from my left, I turned and saw a hand move, and I thought she had a weapon, and I thought we were under an imminent threat of serious bodily injury or loss of life, and I shot her, well, then that's a whole different story, because mistakes happen like that, where you're responding to a possible assault, because there were some fireworks that went off, a loud bang, you look over here and the person's rushing the police car, if that's what happened, and it can happen. It's an unfortunate mistake. That's why it's best if you call law enforcement to stay in your house and let them come and handle it. If they need to come talk to you, they'll come to your door. I don't know what happened, actually, so... So, Jim, you ask who should be sitting the table for President Trump and qualifying these people for the positions within the White House. Well, this is what I don't understand. You know, there's no rules or regulations or laws that govern how the president picks people. And my take on leadership has always been, if I'm tasked with something and I really don't know who the experts are in that field, I will try and seek out people who are experienced in that, and then we'll all sit down and pick these people. In other words, you need experts in a field to pick experts in a field. You don't just pick people because they're loyal. You don't pick people because they're on Fox News. You pick people because they're subject matter experts. You got to remember, folks, the office of the presidency he's the manager, the CEO of this country. His job is to make sure that the country is running correctly. But our federal government has gotten so big and it's gotten so overblown with stuff that it was never intended to be involved with, that there's literally thousands and thousands of positions that have to be filled. And I seriously think a lot of these could be eliminated and kicked back to the states. And if the states don't want it, then it should just be done away with. But the government should be a very simple business. It should be something that is very simple. It runs things in a very simple manner, and it should be something that is a cookie cutter. States should be the same way. You know, you need this, 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 and this in order to make things run, and boom, there you go. People want to start a business, you do what you can to help them out. People want an education, you do what you can to help them out. People need health insurance, we do what we can to help them out. And you figure out ways to make those things happen. But they don't do that. Everybody's wanting to line their pockets and make their own states look better. And then the president gets political and wants his party to be bigger, or like the Obamas and the Clintons, they want communism here and they want to overthrow this government, and they're globalists. I mean, there's all these things going on. But the reality is when it comes to picking the right people to be in and around the White House, you really do need to, I think, skip right past the generals and the admirals and the deputy directors and all these people, and you need to go to, like, I would go to all the agencies and I would say, you know, I don't want, I want you all to do, like in the FBI, for instance, I want peer evals from all the squads that are in the Bureau, and I want to find out who people that meet this criteria. I want, you know, people who understand exactly, you know, mid-level agents to help me pick out who the next director should be. I would say the same thing with the CIA. I would say, you know, with the VA, I would bring in some veterans, I would bring in some doctors, and I would bring in some people who have worked in and around the insurance business, and I would try to understand the reality of what's going on. What is this game that's being played on the American people with this insurance nonsense, and how can we get people covered? Do we just set up governmental hospitals? I know that sounds like socialism. That probably won't work because we did that with the VA, and that doesn't work. Should we give tax incentives to doctors so that they give cheaper health care to people? Do we, you know, I don't know what the answer is, but why don't you go out and find good people, subject matter experts, to help pick the people to head these agencies? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I would have, for anything Department of Defense related, I would pull up some E7s to E9s, and I would seriously consider getting rid of all the generals and admirals and starting over. I would promote E9s up and make them the generals and admirals, and then I would make all the service academies where you had to be enlisted for 4 years before you could go to a service academy. The Navy, the Naval Academy, West Point, Air Force Academy, so on and so forth. So, Christopher asks, it isn't the government's responsibility to provide health care. You're correct on that. There's nothing in the Constitution that says the government should provide health care. However, we have a problem in this country in that we have 320 million people that live in this country. We are a Judeo-Christian based country. And we don't let our American citizens die of starvation or because they have an illness and that needs to be taken care of. We have children that have rotten teeth because they don't have dental insurance. We have middle-aged people who've fallen on hard times because they lost their job for whatever reason, and they get some kind of I don't know what happens to 40-year-olds. I'm 40, cancer. Any kind of illnesses, and they don't have insurance, and they need to be taken care of. The problem is, it's not the government's job necessarily to provide insurance, but it is the government's job to make sure that public safety, national security, and the rights of all the people are there. And I personally feel that we've gotten to a point when it comes to insurance and medical care and housing that the prices are unrealistic and people's lives are being adversely impacted because of the cost of all these things. And basically it all goes back to either lining the pockets of the politicians that are collecting taxes, or it goes to the pockets of the builders, the renters, the hospitals, the insurance companies, and the people are suffering because of this lack of regulation of necessary things in this country. Now, that's not socialism, and the government's job isn't to provide insurance, but it is the government's job to make sure that its people are taken care of in its most primary sense. And I think that the government should be able to regulate the costs of these things, because really, when it gets right down to it, folks, the only reason this stuff is so expensive is because people want to be richer and richer and richer. And I don't think somebody should get rich at the cost of somebody's health or the fact that they can't afford to live in a house. The prices of stuff have just gotten out of control. You know, this whole drug epidemic. One of the people on there just said that they lost, on Twitter, said that they lost their brother to a heroin overdose. You know, the war on drugs is a failed war. And it's failed because we fought it just like we did the war. The war on drugs preceded the war on terror. And we did the same thing. The war on drugs, we went and we basically took down drug cartel members without ever considering, this is down in South America, basically they just wanted to stop the flow of drugs, right? Instead of securing the borders back during the Reagan administration, they just started going after and killing drug cartel members. So they didn't really stop the flow of drugs into the United States. They just killed off the leaders of those cartels. So what happened? They split up. The same amount of drugs are still coming in the country. It's just different and more powerful cartels, because now those cartel members that we killed were actually taking care of the communities. They provided jobs and roads and all these things. And so when we took them out, it didn't stop the flow of drugs. Just simply securing the border in this country and having severe penalties for drug sales and buying drugs, to the point where, you know, if somebody's selling a narcotic and they're caught, that it's life or death. I don't care, whatever it takes to make people say, I'm not doing that, because if I get caught, I'm going to die or go to prison for the rest of my life. So we didn't do anything to secure the borders and stop the flow of drugs into the United States. So the war on drugs is completely failed. The war on terror is completely failed. We have a McMaster in power that won't even admit that fundamental Islam is the biggest national security threat we have outside of the United States, inside its politicians. So we did the same thing in the war on terror. We go over, like, Gaddafi's a perfect example. Gaddafi wasn't causing any problems. He wasn't a harbor of ISIS. He wasn't out there trying to blow up the United States. And yet, hold on one second here. Got him. And yet, we went and killed Gaddafi. It didn't make any sense to me. So the same thing with Saddam Hussein and all that nonsense. Every time you take one of those people out, you create a huge vacuum, and this cluster just happens. So where was I even going with all this? Somebody asked me a question. I don't remember what it was. Yeah, that's a good point, James Drummond. The war on drugs was a farce. The CIA sold drugs to fund operations. Yeah. All right, let's do our toast. I'm hungry. I've got my Corona Light right here. I'll give you a few seconds to go get your toast. Whatever you're going to toast with, whether it be an alcoholic beverage or water or soda pop or Coke, a cola, whatever you want to call it. And while I'm doing that, see right here, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. Our funds have taken a huge dip. I haven't had a whole lot of funds coming in this month, so we gotta stay on that. And I don't want to give up on this quest to move forward and get back out on the road. Hopefully, towards the end of this month, once I get these edits done on my book. But go to the GoFund, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. It keeps scrolling across the bottom of the screen. And share this show, folks. This week, the numbers were low. I don't like that. I know it's summer and all, but we really have to start pushing this show. And I'll start having more and more guests on. I was going to have my good buddy Jason Meister on here. I forgot to see if he texted. No, he's out for dinner. So that's okay. Let's see here. So there it goes. That's what we got to do, Ron. We got to link the road show up with the hunt and have one big show. Maybe we could do that in Raynell, West Virginia, and have Dave Robinson and the Robinson clan out there. That they usually hunt with no shoes on and spears. So all right. I guess everybody's got time enough to get something to drink there. If you're on Twitter, you never participate in this. It's a Friday night toast. I mean, I got to think about what we're going to toast to tonight. What should we toast to? Somebody let me know. Tell me. Come on. Yeah, and they wear a loincloth. The Robinson clan. All right, I'll do my toast with the Dave Robinson voice. That's what we'll do. All right, we'll just toast to life. That's good. And dogs. Yeah, Rico took a fall today. I was giving him a bath. Oh, this dog. He's going to end up killing himself. Yeah, and Norma, he took another fall just like he did when we were at that auditorium. All right, let's do the Truth Zone.
I love this music. It gets me all fired up.
All right, everybody have a toast. How about you over there? All right, don't forget, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. And this is what it sounds like, Ron Bellum, just in case we end up going to West Virginia where Dave Robinson and his clan are at. This is what it would sound. I'm going to paint a picture for everybody right now, okay? It's Friday, so we're a little goofy here. Okay, so Dave Robinson, Sean Robinson, and the whole Robinson clan would be out there, even Ada. They'd all be in loincloths, and they'd have like a bone in their hair and no shoes on, dirty all over their face. And they got these spears, and they like surround a bear, and then they go, "Ay!" And then they start poking the bear right in the eyeball. Oh, Dave Robinson.
All right, I'm back. So anyway, here's to Dave and the Robinson clan and all the people in West Virginia. Here's to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Here's to hopefully the American people figuring it out and standing up against this nonsense. We got to get focused, people. There's no greater citizenry in the world. The United States citizenry was born free. We've always been born free, except for the founding fathers who fled tyranny. They fled tyranny, came here, established this country, and every subsequent generation afterwards was free, with the exception of those that were enslaved. But as I've said before, our Constitution allowed for the changes that needed to happen because it just could not stand. Slavery cannot stand against our Constitution. It won't allow it. Oppression, it won't allow it. Eventually, those things will get weeded out. But we don't need activists and media whores and a ruling class to tell us how to be free. We know how to serve. We're the 1%ers that serve. There needs to be 20, 30, 40, 50% of us actively serving in some way, shape, or form, and the rest of the people out there need to be taking care of this country as well. Service isn't just about deploying overseas or deploying as a cop or a fireman. Service means you get up and you're nice to people, and you don't go on Twitter and belittle people. You don't curse people out because you're angry. You solve problems. Serving means respecting, accepting. It means dialogue. It means knowing your neighbor in an era when you don't know your neighbors. That's what service is all about. Look, if you're angry or you're lonely, get a dog. Dogs will be your best friend. I don't have much more to say than that. I'd grab Rico, but he's over there asleep, as always. I'm Jonathan Gillen. Let's do this toast to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in this country. I will see you all Monday on The Experts. I'm Jonathan Gillen. The truth has arrived.